13 of JorjLim's.
Chris, what the hell are you doing here?
Hi George. Well, you see, because you're really crap with editing JorjLock, I thought I'd come and ruin JorjLim's Question of the Week.
Get out of here. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 13 of JorjLim's Question of the Week. I am of course your host, JorjLim. Now, before we get started, of course, I've been away for a couple of weeks. Long story, all will be explained in vlogs, but we're going to head over to Comment Corner now to find out the answers to last week's JorjLim's Question of the Week. So let's go.
It's time for Comment Corner.
Hello and welcome to Comment Corner. Comment Corner is of course the part of the show where I read the answers to last week's question of the week. Last week's question was, what does your username stand for? Now I've got 13 comments here, one from ZeroMax1. He says 0, the 0 in 360, max, that's the furthest you can possibly rotate. Robin Byrne says it's his friggin' name. Robin Byrne is equal to Robin Byrne. Holy Fisheye says that she was trying to think of a YouTube name and it just came to her. It doesn't actually mean anything. Too Much Whiskey is a homage to her drinking too much whiskey at a party. Miss Princess Sarah says she's a miss. Her name is Sarah, and Sarah means princess. Very logical explanation there. Barry the Observer says he thinks his is from a Mighty Boosh radio sketch, but he's not too sure. The Uninspired Poet says that she's a poet, but she ends up writing a comical death at the end because she can't think of better ways to conclude her poetry, hence the Uninspired Poet. Hallsquire says that is one of her nicknames. Youngness4 says that his stands for Young, Northern Ireland supporter, and his lucky number is 4. Psychotic Snake that says he intended to do funny random videos, but that failed, hence Psychotic, and Snake is because it became one of his characters in his videos, who was called Snake Man 448, named because he liked snakes. 619 Penguin 619 says it's been his nickname for 4 years. That is it for Comment Corner this week. Join me again next week, where I will be telling people the answers to the question you're about to find out. So let's go. Hello and welcome back to this week's question of the week. This week's Chris, are you still here?
No.
Get out! Welcome back to this week's question of the week. Now this week, because it's week number 13, of course this week's question is, what's the unluckiest thing that's ever happened to you? Now I think the unluckiest thing that's ever happened to me is this very episode of JorjLim's Question of the Week, where my co-host from my other show has decided to ransack this show. So, you're still here! Ladies and gentlemen. So, what's the unluckiest thing that's ever happened to you? Put those in the comments below and leave video responses as well. That is it for this week's edition of JorjLim's Question of the Week. But remember, you can submit your questions down in the comments or at Twitter at JorjLim or #JLQOTW. That is it for this week's edition of JorjLim's Question of the Week. And until we meet again next week, stay off the sushi. I'll see you guys later.